The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Which Rams players are standing out at OTAs?
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast.
The talk right now is the OTAs. What's going on at OTAs? And first we want to talk about the tight end position because Tyler Higbee, he spoke with the media and he made some comments about how the tight end room is looking. He said, it's honestly one of the best I've been a part of, I think, since I've been here. He said, just to top to bottom, we've got a lot of depth. I think it might allow us to do some things, get some more 12 personnel on the field. So that's good to hear. I mean, he's saying the right things. He's talking about Terrence Ferguson. He's talking about just the talent in that room. And that has been one of the big takeaways early on from everyone that has anything to say about the Rams OTAs is that Terrence Ferguson, he's included in that group that has impressed the coaches. During the OTAs, Sean McVay said, Terrence has been good. We've seen a guy that's been really attentive in meetings, got a really good feel, just been really impressed with him, and looking forward to seeing him just continue to take it a step at a time. So that's great to see. And then offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur on the Rams' first pick. They got the 46th pick in the draft. They took him in the second round after trading out of that first round. LaFleur said he has a good demeanor about himself. He's got a cool, calm, kind of swagger demeanor about himself, fitting in a real well. He's fitting in great with these guys, and he's just continuing to get better. You just want to see guys that are willing to get better in their fundamentals, and then when they're asked, maybe once a day, then they're ready to perform. You got to go attack the defense, and without the pads on, it's just still go for it, and he's not shy. So it's great to see. Like, I mean, these guys are itching to get those pads on and take it to the next level, but it sounds like Ferguson is hungry, and he can't wait for it. I mean, Matthew Stafford said, quote, he's excited for him. Again, all of his development at this stage, we're just trying to figure out who we're going to be as a team. So everyone is speaking really highly of Ferguson, and typically you get this around this time of year. I mean, everything is sunshine and rainbows in May and June, and hope springs eternal, and we understand that. But I think the interesting thing about all of this is how you're going to see him implemented. How is he going to be featured? I mean, he clearly is going to be involved in some fashion. The question is how. I mean, does he do things that Cooper Kupp did, where Cooper Kupp was used in the middle of the field, moving the chains? They used him in the F package, really, even the 12 personnel package as the F. And, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the Rams do. Do you use less 11 personnel, which has been their calling card under Sean McVay for so many years, right up there as the league leader in that? But Ferguson, he's going to give you some variety. He's going to allow this offense to be more dynamic. And I think the number one area where I'm looking for him is in the red zone. The red zone has been that area where the Rams, it's been a mixed bag. I mean, I'll take it to my grave. I mean, if you have better red zone threats last couple of years, I think that there's a chance that they have another Lombardi trophy, because we saw what happened in the first matchup with the Lions in the postseason a couple years ago. You struggled in the red zone. Then last year, you kind of need to punch your ticket in more throughout the season and the playoffs as well. If he can be a guy that's a target that they hoped that Colby Parkinson was going to be, that's going to allow this offense to put up more points. And when you put up more points, you put less stress on the defense. You put less stress on the entire team, where last year it was almost like, even though they won a ton of games, weren't a ton of blowouts. I mean, there was not a lot of comfortable wins, and you're always kind of having to just manage things. And having the addition of Devonte Adams, having Terrence Ferguson as a guy that could potentially do some things to stretch the field, it's going to be interesting to see what this team can do with him. And I think the cool thing, too, for Ferguson is that, I mean, it does sound like, yeah, he's not a receiver, right? He's not Cooper Kupp, but we saw back in 2017, Cooper Kupp, he showed up to OTAs, and this is the same type of tenor. This is the same type of mindset that he had, and the comments made about him were similar to the ones that are being made about Terrence Ferguson. And what happened? Well, he had a role that year. He made an impact as a rookie year and in his rookie year as a rookie, and it was great to see him do just that. So we could see the same with Ferguson. So, yeah, I mean, look, you want to hear that. You definitely want to hear that your tight ends, you want to hear that your rookies are definitely hitting the ground running and taking everything they can. And I think, too, just a great year to learn from. I mean, I don't know if you saw just Puka Nacua learning from Devonte Adams. And can Devonte Adams take him to the next level? And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that throughout the history of this organization, really. I mean, from guys like from Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, just imparting their knowledge and wisdom to guys like Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, and just kind of great receiver pairings throughout this history as they learn from each other. And it's something that I feel is transferable in the sense that I think it's kind of learning is contagious. And I think it's kind of the same thing with receivers. And I look at Puka Nacua and Devonte Adams, and it feels like Puka is soaking it all in. Puka said after practice this week, he said, I think the positive impact has already been felt from Devonte. From the moment he walked in, he's been willing to offer information, to have new drills, to have a complete different mindset of somebody who's playing in various offenses, very different schemes and stuff like that. So it's been exciting to hear from him. I think the suddenness and the ability to steal leverage at the line of scrimmage has been something that he thrives on, and everybody in the NFL knows that's something that is one of his greatest assets to be able to figure out and how that works in our route concepts and timing of our defense. So I'd say that's been one of the biggest things. So what he's essentially saying is, okay, this is someone that has mastered a certain skill set as far as getting that leverage at the line of scrimmage and leading to getting in and out of your breaks and getting open and creating big plays and chunk plays and things like that. Having a guy like that in this offense and learning just the little nuances of the game, the little nuances. I mean, one thing that I can tell you about being around some of these athletes is, I mean, you have to be extremely specific when you're asking them questions about things like that, because they are like magnifying every single small little details, and they see things that people just don't see. And clearly it's something it's small, but it can have a big impact. So I really like the fact too that Puka and Devonte, they're different types of players, right? They're not the same exact type of receivers, whereas it felt like Puka and Cooper Kupp, you had some similarities, right, in their style of play, big physical, things like that. And I think that having someone of Devonte Adams' caliber and his skill set to pair alongside Puka, it's going to pay dividends this year, because you're going to get the production from Devonte, because I still think he has some really good years left in him. And then also it's the long-term effects of, hey, I guarantee you ask Puka probably 4 or 5 years from now about certain things, he can tell you, oh, I learned that 1 year with Devonte. I learned that couple years with Devonte. So, yeah, I mean, this is a major luxury. This is a major luxury. I mean, this is like, I mean, you're paying a tutor or something, but he's also going to be able to perform for you. So you're getting the long-term effects and the short-term benefits from it as well. And I think, too, that it's going to take some pressure off of Puka. Let's be honest. There's been a lot of pressure on him since that record-setting, that historic rookie season, and you're not going to have him have to carry the offense all by himself as the receiving core. So it's going to be fun to see these two guys together. I think having a mentor type of relationship is only going to help him, and I think that this is going to help him a lot more than a lot of people realize. And I think that it's going to be very, very massive for his career development. So really, really excited about this, because, I mean, this receiving core is, I think, going to be special this year, because I think Matthew Stafford's going to light things up, and I think that we're going to be talking about them as one of the best duos in the sport. And overall production, I think we're getting 1,000 yards at the minimum from each of them. I'm curious, though, if they go to Taco Bell together. I wonder what Puka's order is at Taco Bell, because you know Devonte Adams loves his TCB. Wonder if he's a Taco Bell guy. So that'll be fun to talk about. And Yeah, we'll see. Can Tutu Atwell learn? Can it trickle down to that as well? So there's other benefits as well.
The NBA Finals are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action right now. When you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy. Whether it's picking your favorite teams or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals, there's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You could place that first $5 bet on who you think will win the NFL Rookie of the Year. Travis Hunter is 9-1 to win the offensive award, but 10-1 to win the defensive award as well. I would probably take both of those. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The Chicago Bears wrapped up their mandatory minicamp practices with a few surprise players standing out above the rest.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast.
We're going to recap what we learned from Bears mandatory minicamp, some standout players that you might not expect, so maybe even one that not very familiar with there, but also a couple of guys we know a little bit more about, Jaquan Brisker and Tyreek Stevenson, also standing out at practice, and both, I think, trying to put some of their past with the Bears behind them. One more in terms of health, the other in terms of mistakes, and we're getting some updates from both of them that are encouraging in their respective sets of challenges here. But I was more surprised by the list of players Ben Johnson gave when he was asked who impressed him at mandatory minicamp, like who exceeded expectations or, was better than he thought they would be at mandatory minicamp. And he gave 2 names on defense and 2 names on offense. And really it was like for each side of the ball, there was one player who was better than expected, and then a rookie who is developing at a good speed. That was impressive with how quickly he's picking things up. And on defense, that standout player was defensive end Dominique Robinson, who has felt like a bit of an afterthought in this defensive line rotation. But if he stands out at mandatory minicamps and, can keep that going once we get to training camp when the pads actually come on, there is a real opportunity here in front of him to earn a playing time and carve out a role on this Bears defensive line. We've talked about it on this podcast before, how they don't really have a true number 3 edge rusher right now behind Montez Sweat and Dayo Odengbo. We wondered if last year's 5th-round pick Austin Booker would step up into that role, but when Ben Johnson gives Dominique Robinson's name unprompted, wasn't asked about Dom Robinson, just asked for a name, and that was who he generated there. That's significant. I don't know that it's significant enough to keep the Bears from still potentially pursuing a free agent defensive end, but for Robinson to be the edge rusher and really the defensive lineman among that group that stands out and steps up to the top says something. Because we knew that Robinson was always going to be more of a developmental prospect when the Bears took him 3 years ago in the 5th round. He was a converted wide receiver. I think he had played quarterback earlier in his high school career. Like, this was someone who has been still learning the defensive end position, and that's going to take time to master and improve and get better. And that's not to say that all of a sudden he's going to be some great player this season that he hasn't been the last few years, but at least signs of encouragement and being more of a late bloomer doesn't seem totally out of the question here, given the trajectory of where his career was going as far as the position change goes. Now, he was a healthy scratch for a lot of last season, like trending in a very wrong direction. But Ben Johnson complimented his speed, his quickness off the line of scrimmage, and his ability to also contribute on special teams. I think it gives Robinson a better shot to make the 53-man roster than maybe we were giving him just yet. And of course, if they sign a veteran pass rusher before the start of training camp, that hurts his odds a lot more. But at least that he's able to impress this way before the pads go on is something, and it's not nothing. It's not everything, but it's not nothing either. It's interesting to keep tabs on him. And then the rookie that he mentioned on defense is linebacker Ruben Hippolyte, getting a lot better from one day to the next, learning things, picking things up quickly, because we knew that Hippolyte was more physically impressive from a speed standpoint than some of the other linebackers the Bears have that are competing with him for that number 3 starting linebacker spot. But coming in as a rookie, learning Dennis Allen's defense and adjusting to the NFL the first time, right? He's still got to pick up all the different responsibilities and terminology and okay, what's his job? What's my job? Where am I supposed to go? You're trying to read and react on a play. And sometimes that catching up process mentally can make you a step slow, but he's got the kind of speed to maybe make up for when you're a step slow and still stand out this time of year. And then once the speed of the processing picks back up, then you're reacting quickly and you've got the speed on top of that. You can see where his developmental path goes there to finding a starting role in this defense. He's still competing with, Noah Sewell as the former 5th-round pick out of Oregon. And, and special teams is going to be a key part of all of these guys' path to sticking on this 53-man roster. But for Hippolyte being somebody that we were unfamiliar with entering the draft and feels like he was overdrafted there in the 4th round, it's good to see that the initial returns so far have been encouraging there. On offense, same thing for a 7th-round pick at running back, Kyle Monungai, a name that Ben Johnson pointed out as someone who's gotten a lot better just from the handful of practices that they've all had together since the Bears drafted him. And I thought Monungai was a particularly interesting name to pull here because they don't have the pads on. It would seem like no pads would be a less advantageous arrangement for Monungai's skill set. We knew for him coming out of Rutgers, he's more of a physical running back. One of his best traits, or arguably his best trait, is his contact balance. The fact that when you hit him, it's hard for him to go down. He stays up on his feet through contact. And at OTAs, when you don't have pads on, you're not really getting that actual contact. No one's actually trying to tackle him. So you can't really show off his best trait. And we knew one of the reasons he fell to the 7th round is from an athletic testing standpoint, nothing to write home about. Not the fastest 40-yard dash or explosive measurements, more of a average NFL running back athlete. Not slow, but just not particularly fast. And you would think that practices without pads would be more the time that the speedy, shiftier running backs would shine, and maybe the less impressive athletes would have a harder time looking good for their coaches in this type of a setting. And so the fact that then Monungai was able to do so shows that he's doing a lot of little things right in terms of his ball security, his path with the running back, how he's setting up blocks and blockers in front of him, and all the sort of intangible stuff that isn't so much speed, but also isn't so much physicality. It's more like the rules and nature of playing running back in Ben Johnson's offense. So glad that he's picking things up quickly. I'm very optimistic for him being able to contribute and have a real role in this offense, even as a rookie 7th-round pick this season. The last name Ben Johnson mentioned is one I don't know that we've ever mentioned here on the podcast. Tight end Joel Wilson, down there at the very bottom of the tight end depth chart. After you draft Colston Loveland and add him with Cole Kmet, and they signed Durham Smythe as a free agent, there's not really a path for Joel Wilson to make this Bears 53-man roster. But a former undrafted free agent out of Central Michigan, has been on a couple of different practice squads, the Bills, the Packers. I think he was briefly with the Giants before he came to the Bears practice squad this last season, and then retained by this new coaching staff here. Practice squad candidate kind of guy. But Ben Johnson singled him out over anybody else on offense he could have pointed to as most improved. So maybe it's somebody we keep an eye on for a dark horse, number 4 tight end, but special teams would have to be kind of how he makes the 53-man roster anyway. So I have a feeling we won't need to spend any more time on Joel Wilson moving forward here on the Locked On Bears podcast. But an interesting group of standouts that's not your obvious, Caleb Williams is playing well, DJ Moore is playing well, whatever. These are digging deep for names, and those are going to be the more interesting movers and shakers anyway, because we know the good players are good. We're trying to figure out if the lesser players are actually any good, and we're seeing some positive signs there from those guys.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Trayvon Diggs and Donovan Wilson could be playing for their jobs in 2025.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast.
We're going to take a look at 3 players who could be playing for their jobs in 2025. And let's start with a couple big name defensive players. Let's start with Trayvon Diggs. We've talked about Trayvon over the last couple of weeks, but it sure seems like, given his contract situation, his health situation, Landon, and kind of some of the stuff off the field when it comes to maybe not rehabbing as hard as he needs to be, this could potentially be it for Trayvon.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point, when you've played out your guaranteed money, there's been all kinds of issues that whether perceived or real, it does feel like, as we've talked about, that there's some kind of animosity going on, or at least there had been some animosity going on. And then when you look at the Deron Bland situation, as he's up on a contract year, you've got Savon Revell that they've drafted. So, and they traded for, we can't forget that they did trade for another corner as well. It's not like he's necessarily a Diggs replacement, but they are making a lot of moves at the cornerback position. So you have to wonder if this goes south, or if he comes back and doesn't play as well. Is this a situation where he could be traded or cut, or it just you wonder how long the leash is for Diggs this season, if he doesn't come back and play good football again this year.
Well, and let's think about how long it's been. So 2024, up and down, would you say, as a corner? I mean, I think there was more ups than downs, but I think generally kind of average. 2023, he missed almost the entire season. He got hurt between week 2 and 3. 2022, he was good. He didn't have the interceptions that he had in 2021, but I actually thought he was a pretty good overall corner. We're just a long time removed since that magical 2021 season where he led the league in interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make an argument that 2022 season, he may have been playing actual better football.
He was way more consistent game to game.
But you're right. Like, that's still a long time ago. And again, with the contract in the state that it's in, and listen, the thing about Diggs is that it's always been a very up and down situation with him, right? It's just it's very fast or famine, and it's like, if he doesn't get a bunch of interceptions, then sometimes you wonder if it's worth it, if it's the bad times are worth it. You add in the fact that the game has started to move more towards running the football, and that specifically is an area where he really, really struggles, and you just don't know if that has gotten any better. And especially as his health is kind of become a problem, you wonder if that can get better at this point. So there's just a lot of things kind of hovering around that situation. Nonetheless, obviously, including the fact that he has a big cap number, and that cutting him really wouldn't cost the Cowboys a ton of money.
No, let's look at the contract really quickly. They can cut him before June 1 in the offseason. It would save them $12.5 million. But if they designate him as a post June 1 cut, they could save $15.5 million. Now, they would spread out some of those savings, but $15.5 million in savings, that would pay for most of Deron Bland's new contract if that becomes something you want to do. Let's say Deron Bland earns a $20 million a year contract. Cutting Diggs and giving it to Bland, it's not. I don't think that's off the table at all.
I mean, it's something that they have to be considering. I mean, it's just like it's such an obvious move, and Bland is a guy that kind of more fits the mold of the type of player that they want, right? Like a guy that's versatile inside and out. He's a hard worker, team player. He plays, inside the boundaries of the rules the way that they like, as far as showing up to the facility, rehabbing with Britt Brown and those sort of things. So I just wonder if they aren't just looking at that situation and thinking, man, unless Diggs comes and blows us away early in this season with his recovery and with the way he plays post recovery, we don't want to let Deron Bland walk out the door. And if Diggs is the reason that we do that, I think that they probably would end up regretting it.
All right, let's talk about the safeties. I want to mention both Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker. So Donovan Wilson has a void year. He'll technically be a free agent in 2026. Now the Cowboys could bring him back probably at a fairly cheap price, but Malik Hooker's the other safety. Malik Hooker will have $2 million in dead cap next year. They can cut him before June 1st, save $7 million. I wonder if both safeties are playing for the jobs, because I wouldn't be surprised if they just decide to completely revamp that position. Those guys are both older. Donovan Wilson will be 31 next year. Malik Hooker will be 30. Maybe they don't want to have two 30-plus-year-old safeties in the secondary.
Maybe, but I think, the difference between the two to me is that Hooker has a skill set that I don't know that the other safeties necessarily have in this
Agreed.
secondary, right?
Yes.
Like that's the thing is that Wanye Thomas and Marquise Bell both could probably step in and do a pretty darn good job playing the Donovan Wilson role if they needed to today. The thing that Wilson brings and has brought in the past is just a high level of variance. He'll force a bunch of fumbles. He'll create turnovers. He'll create big plays. The problem is always been he'll create big plays for the offense as well.
Yep.
So I think the last few years, it's been the reason that we've seen him more and that he got a big contract is that he had kind of reduced the number of big plays that he had given up. And it had been a lot of kind of continued big play creation, turnovers, fumbles, interceptions without, a lot of boneheaded mistakes. I feel like that's regressed a little bit these last 2 years, maybe. So I think, this is another new defensive coaching staff that is not beholden to him at all. If they come in here and they like what they see from a young Wanye Thomas, then the versatility that he can provide, I think that's one of the things that they're probably looking at when they're playing him in the slot and doing all the things that they're doing in OTAs and then this week, I'm sorry, in mini camps. I think that this is where you're seeing, hey, can we get more out of the position by playing Wanye Thomas and potentially saving some money by letting him go? I think Wilson's been fantastic, but if he isn't going to be that kind of high floor, high ceiling guy, then he probably isn't worth the money necessarily that we've been paying him so far.
Yeah, and I'll just say for Malik Hooker, I really like Malik Hooker. I think he's still a good player, but they might view, hey, we can save $7 million or put that money towards a younger safety, get a little bit more athletic, or let's use that $7 million to go address another position and draft our safety, in round 1, round 2, round 3, or whatever. And maybe that's how they continue to not pay a lot of money at that position. I don't know. It just feels like I would be shocked if these are your two starting safeties at this time next year. Like, I think they're going to move on from at least one, if not two.
I mean, they did put money on behind Marquise Bell and Wanye Thomas. They didn't just let them walk out the door. Yeah. And on top of that, what position did they pay the most undrafted free agent money to? It was a safety nickel corner guy. So they potentially are spending some money here in a position that they don't normally spend money at. So that could portend a change to the position.